It's the kind of news that stops people in their tracks. A headline that doesn't feel real at first glance. A name that carries history, heart, and memories suddenly attached to a number that feels far too small to belong to a life so big. When word broke that U.S. Olympic boxer Vanes Martirosyan had died at just 39, the shock rippled instantly through the sports world, through fans across the globe, and most painfully, through the family that loved him long before his name ever sat under bright lights. It's the kind of loss that forces you to pause, take a breath, and realize that even those we see as warriors, those who seem invincible, fight battles the world never sees. For Martirosyan, the final battle was the hardest of all. After a 2-year struggle with a rare and aggressive form of skin cancer, his family shared the heartbreaking news of his passing. But to understand why this loss feels so heavy to so many people, you have to understand the journey that came before it, a journey built on resilience, sacrifice, and a lifelong devotion to a sport that shaped him from a time he could barely lift a pair of gloves. Vanes Martirosyan's story began in Armenia, a place woven deep into his family's identity. When he was 4 years old, his parents made a decision that would redefine the entire trajectory of their lives. They packed up everything and moved to Glendale, California, carrying with them the hopes, fears, and dreams that so many immigrant families know all too well. They wanted a better life for their sons. They wanted possibilities that didn't exist where they were. And as fate would have it, those possibilities would one day lead their youngest boy into the heart of world-class boxing. He didn't stumble into the sport, he inherited it. His father loved boxing, lived boxing, and passed that fire directly to his son. At just 7 years old, Vanes stepped into a gym for the first time, and the sound of gloves pounding canvas became the rhythm of his childhood. He trained when other kids played. He sacrificed comfort for discipline, fun for focus, and sleep for sweat. But even as a child, he didn't complain. He wasn't pushed, he was pulled by something within himself, something that seemed to say, "This is your place. This is your purpose." By the time he turned 18, that purpose carried him all the way to the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens. At welterweight, representing the United States on the biggest athletic stage in the world, he did what few teenagers ever achieve. He stood under the Olympic lights with the flag across his chest and the world watching. That alone would have been enough to define a lifetime. But for Vanes Martirosyan, it was only the beginning. He turned professional at 20, stepping into a world where dreams are made and broken in equal measure. Training under the legendary guidance of Freddie Roach, he sharpened his skills, toughened his spirit, and built a reputation for discipline, speed, and heart. He fought with a combination of precision and fearlessness, qualities that drew in fans and opponents alike. And for years, he worked quietly but relentlessly, waiting for the opportunity that would finally put him on a global stage. That moment came in 2018. When Canelo Alvarez stepped out of a scheduled fight, Martirosyan stepped in, with only 3 weeks to prepare, for a showdown with one of boxing's most feared champions, Gennady Golovkin. No excuses, no hesitation, no fear. He walked into the ring knowing the odds were stacked sky-high against him, but he walked in anyway. That's who he was. The fight was brutal and swift. He was knocked out in the second round, and afterward he described Golovkin's power with a phrase that became unforgettable, like being hit by a train. But that night didn't define him by the defeat, it defined him by his courage. It's easy to face a challenge when the path is clear and the timing perfect. But it's something else entirely to step into the unknown with the whole world watching. Martirosyan did that willingly, proudly, and fearlessly. Yet for all the highlights of his career, for all the triumphs and battles and iconic moments inside the ring, what mattered most to him lived far beyond it. He was a husband. He was a father. He was a man who adored his wife and cherished his 2 children, Andrew and Ariana. Those who knew him say he was gentle, protective, and endlessly devoted. And when his family released their statement announcing his passing, their words revealed a version of him that fans never fully saw, but one they instantly understood. They described a man with a heart too big to measure, a soul too warm to forget, and a love for his family so deep it left an imprint on everyone he met. The journey that ended his life was one he never expected to face. 2 years earlier, he was diagnosed with a rare form of skin cancer, so rare, doctors told him it affects just 1% of people. In an interview last year, he opened up about the fear, vulnerability, and uncertainty that came with that diagnosis. He said something that has haunted many people since, "In fighting, we have protection, ringside doctors, ambulances, referees. With cancer, we don't have any protection. What if it gets worse? I have no control over this." It was a sentence that didn't sound like a boxer. It sounded like a human being stripped of every shield he'd ever relied on. For once, it wasn't about strength or endurance or grit. It was about surrendering to something he couldn't out-train, couldn't out-punch, and couldn't outrun. But even then, he didn't lose hope. He prayed. He believed in miracles. He held on to his family. He fought that battle the same way he fought every opponent, fully, fiercely, and without giving up. Yet cancer is an enemy that doesn't play by rules, and even the strongest spirits can struggle under its weight. His grief wasn't limited to his own illness. He also carried the pain of losing his older brother, who died of a heart attack at just 40. In that same interview, he revealed the heartbreak of watching his parents reserve burial spaces next to their lost son. He said he told them, "I don't want to be the next one in there." It was a plea soaked in fear, love, and the desperate desire to stay alive for the people he cherished. But sometimes life writes endings we don't choose. When he passed, the world lost a fighter, but his family lost the center of their universe. They wrote about the emptiness he leaves behind, a void they know will never fully be filled. They said words that were raw, honest, and impossible to read without feeling the weight of their pain. "We are losing an incredible man. It won't be easy, but we hold on to the thought that he's going to a better place, where there is no more pain." That image, a man who fought with everything he had, finally finding peace, stays with you long after their message ends. It forces a reflection that feels both personal and universal. For all the glory, for all the spotlight, for all the legacy, life is still fragile. And even the toughest among us are human. If there is a legacy Vanes Martirosyan leaves beyond the ring, beyond the gloves, beyond the record books, it is this, a reminder that strength is not just measured by victories. It's measured by love, by courage, by how you treat people, by how you fight the battles no one sees, by how you get up when life hits harder than any opponent ever could. His children will grow up hearing stories about their father's achievements, but they will also hear about the heart behind them, the man who made people feel valued, the man who carried kindness like a second skin, the man whose warmth filled every room he walked into. That is a legacy far greater than any title. Tonight, fans across the world will replay his fights, remembering the determination in his eyes, the fire in his punches, and the quiet composure that made him unforgettable. But somewhere in Glendale, a family is holding each other a little tighter, grieving a man whose love was stronger than any spotlight could capture. And maybe that's the real story. Not just the fighter who stood on Olympic mats. Not just the athlete who stepped up to one of the world's best with 3 weeks' notice. Not just the man who survived hardship, heartbreak, and countless battles. But the human being who loved deeply, lived fiercely, and fought courageously until the very end. As the world mourns this unimaginable loss, one thing is clear. Vanes Martirosyan's journey did not end with his final breath. It lives in the memories he created, the hearts he touched, and the legacy he built through every punch, every prayer, and every moment of strength. His spirit leaves behind a story that will continue to inspire, to move, and to remind us that real champions are defined not by their victories, but by the heart they leave behind. May he rest in peace, and may his family find comfort in knowing that his fight is love, and his legacy will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to daily updates and never miss a video.